ஹலோ பாலாஜி சார்.
சொல்லுங்க சதீஷ் சார். கெஸ்ட் அலுமினி அரைவ் ஆயிட்டாரு.
ஓகே
ஆயிட்டாரு.
ஓகே சார். இதோ நாங்க லிங்க்ல எத்தனை பேர் இருக்காங்க பார்த்துட்டு நான் உங்களுக்கு சொல்றேன் சார். வெயிட் பண்ணுங்க. மியூட்ல இருக்கு.
யூடியூப் லைவ் போட்டிங்களா?
போட்டேன் சார்.
ஓகே ஓகே.
தேங்க்யூ.
ஹரிபிரசாத்.
ஹலோ.
ஹரிபிரசாத் சார், தம்பி கேக்குதா?
ஓகே
ஓகே. ஹவ் ஆர் யூ? நல்லா இருக்கீங்களா?
ஃபைன். நீங்க?
நான் நல்லா இருக்கேன். Okay, we'll start the session by 12 p.m. Okay, 12.
Okay.
For 5 minutes.
Okay.
Sir, shall we start? Sorry, Prasad, shall we start?
Yes, we can.
A good noon to one and all present here. On behalf of the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Paramount Engineering College, I would like to welcome you all for this alumni talk, which is presented by Mr. HARIPRASATH. He is one of the alumni, and he started his career with Wipro as a corporate trader, and he has trained new joiners and experienced employees on emerging technologies like Java, automation, Python, etc. He has also handled trainings across the world Wipro offices. After serving there for 2 years, he has moved to HCL Technologies. Now he is working as in research and development division as a Python developer in specifically cloud computing domain. So I would like to hand over the session to Mr. HARIPRASATH. You can carry on, sir.
Yeah. Thank you for the intro. Good afternoon, everyone. So happy to talk to you, everyone. So let me just share the screen and I can briefly intro about me, and we'll proceed with the today's topic. Right. So let me share my screen now. Yeah. Hopefully my screen is visible for you guys, right?
Yeah, it's visible. You can carry on.
Yeah, sure. So today we are going to discuss about choosing a right path on IT career. So it is very highly important to choose a right path in your IT career. It involves too many steps. It is not so easy to choose a career, especially in IT. So there are different streams and domains that we have, and it is very important for you to choose the respective one which you like and which you enjoy, because job is not something which you will do for 1 day or 2 days. So you are going to continue that maybe half of your life. You are going to do the same job, whatever you are choosing. So it is very important to choose a right path in your IT career. So that is what our theme and agenda is for today. So before going into the agenda, I just want to give a brief introduction about me. Yeah, so I am HARIPRASATH, and I started my career with Wipro as a corporate trainer. I have served for 2 years there. I have trained students or employees on different technologies like Java, PHP, Perl, Ruby, Python, and the automations also. So being a corporate trainer, I have trained around 6,000 plus students in that tenure of 2 years. So I have not only handled the freshers, also I have handled the experienced people who has given and deployed into the projects, and I have trained them also on different emerging technologies. Yeah, so that was my career with Wipro. Then I have moved to a Python developer role, and especially in cloud computing platforms. So this is what a brief introduction about my career. So I have experience on both teaching people as a corporate trainer as well as developing the things as a project lead, right? So I have dual responsibilities as well. So let's talk about the agenda of the day first. We have 5 important key pointers today to discuss. One is options and actions. We'll discuss about it. What is options and actions? If you say IT, there is not something like only one path or one option available. Inside IT, you have n number of options available in line. So that is what we are going to discuss. What are the options that we have in the IT sectors, and what are all the actions that you need to take in order to grab the option? That is highly quite important. So we have that as well. So options and actions. The second one is boosting up your profile. So if you want to get a good job or something, you must need to have a good profile, or else you can say it as a resume, whatever it is. So that is what we are going to discuss. how to boost up your profile. And third one is a on-demand skill set. Coming to on-demand skill sets, now we need some skill sets to get a job. Okay, so we are going to discuss about what are all the skill sets that we need to have in order to grab a job, and finally the roles and responsibilities. So as I said before, you have n options and n roles, and we're going to discuss what are all the roles and how it will be helpful in your career. So it is very important for you to select the right choice or right path, and you have to follow the same throughout your IT career, because IT is something very big and you have to go to a right position in order to get the right things for you, right? So let's start with the first agenda: options and actions. So people used to say that there is a scarcity of job, but I believe that there is no scarcity of job, but there is only scarcity on skill sets, right? So if we have good skill sets, the assurance for getting a job is quite easy in any company, right? So there is no scarcity, there is only scarcity on skill sets. So if you know everything, not everything possibly anyone knows, right? So if you know to extent of every technologies or the field that you're working in, then definitely there is no scarcity for a job. So there will be always options and openings, and the only thing which you have to keep in mind is that are you willing or are you eligible to get that opportunity or not. So we have to self-estimate ourselves on that particular parameter, and we have to ensure that whether are we eligible to get the particular role or job. So that is the first and foremost pointer. So don't think about there is a scarcity on any domain. I'm not talking only about IT. In any domain, there is no terminology is called scarcity. So there is no job scarcity. But the only thing which we have to keep in mind is, are we eligible to take that job or role? That is what a big question mark is. So what we need to do, we have to enhance our skill sets in order to meet up the business requirements of any company. Then only the chances of getting placed or getting job will be increased. So that is what you have to keep in your mind. Second thing is, like as I said before, there are infinite options available. If you talk about IT, it is not information technology. In other words, we will call it as infinite technologies, because we have n number of technologies available for you to excel your skill sets and experience and expose your knowledge on that, right? So there are n number of technologies available, n number of options available, but we have to ensure, are we eligible to take up that roles and responsibilities or not. So if we are ready, if we are eligible, then getting a job is not a difficult job at all, right? So that is what you have to keep in mind. And also it is highly important to choose the right IT career path, because it defines the further parts of your life. Say for example, you are going for a job in the age of 21 or 22, then till end of your life, or in say for example till 50 years, you're going to do the same job. Max of the people will do the same. There will be some exceptions, but still max of the people will continue to do the same job till the end of their 50 or 58, right? So it is highly going to define the further parts of your life, and I strongly recommend to choose a right path. You have already chosen, you're in computer science domain, and now you have to choose your subdomain and you have to work on that, because IT is just an abstract word. Inside that there will be a lot of subdomains available, and you have to ensure whether you are going to choose the right domain or not. So that is what highly important, right? So this is about options and actions. You have n number of actions. Don't think about scarcity. There is no scarcity. You have options, but make your profile strengthen so that you will be adaptable to the options. Okay, so that is what I want to convey first. And when I talk about boosting your profile, so there are two terminologies coming into your mind. One is mandatory skill sets, the other one is a optional skill set. I'll discuss in a while. So we have a profile or a resume with some skill sets. Based on that only the job will be offered, right? So the interviewer who is going to interview is going to ask questions based on your profile, what you're presenting to them, right? So you have two main parts there, components there. As an IT engineer, or you can say as a computer science student, you should have some mandatory skills and you should have some optional skills. So people just confuse with these two things, like what is mandatory and what is optional, and max of the profiles, it will be in a reverse order. The people, keep the things in a reverse way. Optional skills will go first and the mandatory skills will go next. So it will not be the case. First, as a computer science student, you should have some mandatory skill sets, then only comes to an optional skill set. Especially as a fresher, this is going to help you a lot, because a mandatory skill sets are one which is essential and important, or you can say it is a basic building block. And optional skills will just strengthen your profile to a great extent. So keeping that on mind, just classify your skill sets as mandatory and optionals. And mandatory are one which is compulsory, and every computer science engineer should have those skill sets. So let's talk about the mandatory skill sets as a student. So I'm not going to explain you as a experienced professional skill sets. I'm just going to explain you as the mandatory skill sets that every computer science student or a fresher should have, right? So these are the 4 pointers: C, C++, Java, and any DB exposure. Either it may be SQL or no SQL, that doesn't matter, but SQL is preferred as a, if you're starting your career as a fresher. But once you go experienced, there will be a requirement for no SQL knowledge. So depends, right? So these are all the must-have skills as a computer science engineer or as fresher, right? So I am not saying here C or C++ or Java. I'm saying C and C++ and Java, because all three are highly important. I'll tell you with the example why. C is just like a low-level programming language, we know, right? Some people will call it as a medium level. That's fine. C is, we are not going to write any object-oriented code on C, but we can do that with C++. Java is something highly important to have, because the complete IT world is now running with Java. So there are few exceptions, like Python is trying to grab the position, but still, yes, Java is running the world. So these 4 technologies is must. I'm not saying that this is optional. This is must for any computer science engineer. It should be C, C++, Java, and any DB exposure. I'm not pointing it as Oracle or MySQL. I'm not telling anything. Any DB exposure is sufficient, but good to have C, C++, Java, and any DB as mandatory skill set. Now let's talk about optional skill sets that we need to have. So we have n number of high-level programming languages, like you have Perl, you have PHP, you have Python, you have Ruby. So n number of things are available. So having knowledge on those high-level programming languages will be highly helpful. But as a fresher, make sure that you already have a basic knowledge or a background on C, C++, and Java. Then come back to this part, any high-level language. Directly pitching into high-level language doesn't help as a fresher, especially. Say, for example, you are experienced for 2 years or 3 years, then you're going for an interview. In that case, people will not require this C, C++, or Java. They definitely ask for the domain-specific requirements. Say, for example, last 2 years you worked on Python. Then definitely the next interview, as experienced professional that you are going to take, the questions will be definitely from Python. No one will ask or look into C, C++, or Java until and unless the job requirement is with C or C++ or Java. But as a fresher, it is must to have this basic standards or basic set of mandatory skills in your resume. Then go for your optional skills. That is what I can recommend, because I have seen this scenario, like it is must. Even if you are not putting these C or C++ or Java in your resume, the questions will come from those technologies or languages. Definitely that will be there. So please concentrate on C, C++, and Java. Then you can go ahead and proceed with your optional skill sets, like any high level or any frameworks. Framework, if I talk about, it is something like an ocean again. So we have n number of frameworks. I'll discuss in the upcoming slides. So the key learning here is have a basic exposure on C, C++, and Java, and put that on your resume. Then you can proceed with any high-level language like Python, Perl, or PHP, Ruby, whatever you want, or whatever you know, or whatever you are interested in, right? So directly pitching into optional skills, or I can say any high-level languages doesn't help, because as a fresher, it is must to have these three things in your profile, right? So now we'll talk about on-demand skill sets. What is on-demand skill set, right? So currently, the organizations are looking for full stack developers or full stack development role, right? So what is a full stack, I will say? So in a simpler terminology, full stack is a combination of everything: testing, development, coding, deployment, and continuous integrations. Everything will come under a single roof called full stack. So I just explain you in a brief way about the full stack in the upcoming slide. But the basic requirement is right now the hot requirement with the organizations is like full stack development. So what is a full stack development? It is an end-to-end development approach. Like you will do everything: front end, back end, database, APIs, everything one person should be able to do. That is what the requirement is right now, right? So previously, people who don't like coding, right? So they will just go for a manual testing role, and they just do a manual testing work, like taking screenshots, doing the things with Excel. That was there previously, but nowadays there is no manual testing also. So everything is moving towards automation, and the tester should also need to have a good programming knowledge, else it is not possible to get a job. So don't think that if I go for a manual tester role or a testing role, I will not do coding, because it is highly important to have a coding skill. Even if you're going for a tester, or you're going for a development engineer, or you're going for a DevOps engineer, or even if you're going for a networking role, whatever it is, doesn't matter. But yes, you have to do coding. You have to know coding. So that is what I want to convey. So just don't think that coding is not necessary if I'm a network engineer. Don't think that coding is not necessary if I'm a tester. No. Any piece or any part or role in an IT organization or requires some coding skills, not some coding skills. Yes, definitely there should be a coding exposure. Then only you will get an option to go in itself, right? So don't think that, or don't come to a conclusion like if I go for a testing role or network engineer role, there will be not a requirement for coding. Yes, definitely you should know coding. Whatever the role that you are going to get in, that doesn't matter. Everyone should know coding, right? So that is what the important is. And the basic requirement is full stack development. I already said that. Full stack is like complete development. As a one personality, or you can say as a one individual person, you should know how to develop the front end, back end, APIs, database, and everything. End-to-end development is said to be full stack development. From the word itself, you can say full stack, complete stack development. It will have everything inside, like the front end development, back end development, APIs development, database development. Everything you have to do alone. That is what a full stack developer role is, right? So we'll talk about that in a brief. So as I said before, full stack development involves front end, back end, APIs, database, and testing. So you may not know what is a API or what is a front end and back end. I just give an overview, and let's proceed with the next part. So what is a front end? Let's take a very simple web application, right? So let's take something called java.tpoint.com or udemy.com, which you are already aware of, right? So you are logging into the Udemy via udemy.com, right? Or else let's take a very basic example like youtube.com. So you are just going to youtube.com, and if you enter youtube.com, it is giving the front end, right? So the HTML page with CSS and the list of videos, everything is getting visible to the front end as a layman user, right? So that is said to be a front end. So the layman's perspective or the user's whatever is going to see is said to be a front end, right? So there are some technologies that you need to excel for front end. You have to know something called HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and there are some front end frameworks like React.js. So many things are there, right? So for front end, you have to learn all these things. For back end, you have some high-level programming languages like Python, PHP, Ruby also is there, and too many things that supports backend development. Then comes to API. When it comes to API, you have REST API, SOAP API kind of. What is an API? Is a application interface. So using that will connect between the applications, right? So then databases. So database, you should aware of any database like MySQL or NoSQL or Oracle 11g, MongoDB, whatever you want, that you have to aware of. Testing comes like, it's not a manual testing, it's automation testing. So there are tools available like Selenium, you have Cucumber, you have something called UFT. So these are all the testing frameworks. So you have to aware of all these things. So if you know all these things, combinedly you will be said to be a full stack developer, and the person who is developing is a full stack developer. So he should know HTML, CSS, JavaScript, any front-end programming languages like React.js, and backend anything like Python, Node.js, or something like Django, Ruby on Rails, whatever. APIs, you should aware of REST API or SOAP. SOAP is not used right now. Maximum they are going with REST, so you should aware of. And database, as I said before, as a fresher, you should know only the MySQL part or the basic SQLs. It is not mandatory to have MongoDB or NoSQL, but it is good to have if you want to become a DB engineer. And testing perspective, you have something called Selenium, Cucumber, these things, you can use those as well, right? So skills on front end, as I just discussed before, you should have some basic skills on front end, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, so, and any JS frameworks like React.js and Angular.js. So as a fresher, at least you should have HTML, CSS and JS. Let's not bother about the React.js or Angular. Having exposure is highly good and advisable. But what I say is, it is good to have at least HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in your profile. Then, if you are interested with JS frameworks, you can go ahead and learn React.js and Angular.js, right? So, but as a full stack developer, we will not just simply sit with HTML, CSS, and JS. We should go ahead and proceed with React.js and Angular, right? Backend, as I said before, for backend, we are not just going to use a programming language like Java or Python, but we are going to use frameworks. So frameworks in the sense, you have PHP, Laravel. So I'm putting it as outdated. That doesn't mean that the Laravel is old. I'm telling the requirements are very less. That is why I'm mentioning the word outdated. PHP itself, if you take, the requirements are very less when comparative to other programming languages, right? So that is why I mentioned it as outdated. So PHP, yes, it is good to have, but the requirements are very less. Java, if you take, nowhere you are going to go code something like system.out.println. We are not just going to work with servlets, or we are not just going to work with JSPs. Yes, they are all building blocks, but we'll be working on frameworks like Spring, Hibernate, Struts, Spring Boot. So there are a number of frameworks available, and we are going to work with any one of them, right? Spring, Hibernate, Spring Boot, whatever. If you are choosing Java as a backend, you should go ahead with any one of this framework like Spring, Hibernate. Coming to Python, you have frameworks like Flask and Django, and other frameworks also available. I'm just listing out the top-notch frameworks here. And Ruby, coming to Ruby parts, you have Ruby on Rails, which is a framework of Ruby, right? So these are all the backend technologies available. From this, it is very clear. If you are putting Java in resume, it just means it's a core Java. But when you go for a work, or when you're going to do any job, a realistic project, it will not just go ahead with Spring or Hibernate, or it will not just go ahead with core Java, but it will know all these frameworks. Like any project that has been developed in IT will have frameworks in place, right? So no one will go and simply write a program and develop the application. Everyone will follow the framework because it provides a coding standards, and it also provides modularity approach and flexibility. So that is the highlight of framework. It will reduce our job, especially if we go for a very big application, right? So we have frameworks like specific to languages like Java, Spring, Python, Django, Ruby, Ruby on Rails, and for other languages also we have frameworks respectively. So if you know a particular programming language, if you are aware of core Java, then you can proceed and learn with Spring or Hibernate and start learning Struts or Spring Boot. So if you are interested in Python, don't stop with core Python, just start learning Flask or Django. So if you are interested in Ruby, again, just don't stop with core Ruby, you just start doing things on Ruby on Rails, etc. Right? So this will enhance your profile. Yeah. So skill sets on DB, as I said before, any SQL or no SQL is required. As a fresher, just good to have SQL alone. Then if you are getting experience, definitely there will be a requirement nowadays with NoSQL. So NoSQL, MongoDB, such things will come into the cadence, right? So just I discussed the front end, back end, and DB. And coming to the API part, as I said before, REST APIs just ruling now. Just learn about REST APIs. It is very easy comparative to the other developments. API developments are quite easy, and it is emerging also, right? So it's highly emerging. So it is good to have a basic knowledge on API. I'm not telling you to develop an application with APIs, but good to have a basic exposure on what is API and how it is going to work. That is important, right? So that is one thing. Then coming to the DevOps section, right? So what is a DevOps? From the name itself, you can convey or you can understand developments plus operations. So companies will have development works as well as the operational works, right? So combined together forms a DevOps. So I'm just showing you in the slide list of DevOps tools available, right? So it's like a periodic table in chemistry. We have n number of DevOps tools available. I'm just putting it in terms of a table and showing what are all the tools that is available. So in terms of a database, in terms of a continuous integration, in terms of a deployment, in terms of cloud computing. So there are n number of tools available. So this comprises the list of tools or set of tools which is involved in organizations for development operations, right? So you can go through it. It has n number of things like SQL, MySQL, PostgreSQL. See, if you take this orange color, the first row, you can see like there are n number of tools. You may already aware of MySQL, MS SQL, PostgreSQL, MongoDB, or DB2. So like a combination of everything which is being used in the organizations forms a DevOps. So you can just refer to that also. Now, career and testing perspective. As a tester, as I said before, it is quite important to have a programming knowledge. Without programming knowledge, simply if you are going and working as a tester, it is not going to work anymore, because definitely I feel more than developers, testers should have programming knowledge. And yeah, so if you talk about automation testing, these are all the things which you have to learn. Selenium, UFT, non-functional testing tools like JMeteor, web scraping tools like Beautiful Soup. So robot framework is also available. So it is like, it supports enormous things. Robot is not just for automation testing, it supports enormous things. You can just go through it. So if you are thinking to have your career option in testing, then definitely you can start with any one of this. I prefer to start with Selenium because it is open source. If you go for UFT, you have to pay. JMeter web scraping tools like Beautiful Soap or Robot is also open, and you can just download it and explore. And there are a lot of tutorials available in guru99.com. You can go through there, right? So what I'm trying to convey is, if you are trying to start your career as a automation tester, just note that these are all the mandatory skill sets that you're supposed to have, right? Yeah. So as a API developers, as I said before, you have to learn any languages like Java, Python, or Ruby on Rails. API can be developed with any language, right? So nowadays, the world is developing the APIs max with Java and Python. But if you are interested, you can explore other languages also, and you can start doing the development works. right? API development is emerging right now. If you know API, it will be a good added advantage in your profile. So please make sure that you know the APIs, right? So at least the fundamental basics. I prefer not to go with Java in terms of API development because it is quite difficult as a fresher. When you talk with Python, API development is easy. You can use any Django or Flask APIs to develop the APIs. So what is API is just like in simple terms, as a layman, if I want to explain, API is an interface like to hit your database and get the data from the database. Normally, we will not directly hit to the database and get the data. Rather, we develop some protocols and API URLs, or we'll call it as endpoints. That endpoints will hit the database and get the data, right? So the reason behind why we use APIs is like it is compatible with different environments. Say, for example, if your app wants to talk to any other applications, then the communication between these two apps will happen with the help of APIs, right? So that is what you have to keep in mind, right? Right. Now, networking roles, again, so I just discussed about the development role and testing role as well as the API developer role. Now we'll come to networking roles. So people think that network engineers don't need to have coding, but that is quite wrong. We don't go with that approach. But the reason behind is network engineers should also need to have some coding knowledge. Many part of the networking domains uses some emulators, wherein programming knowledge is completely mandatory. So don't think that if I am a CCNA engineer or some certified network engineer, I am not going to do coding. No, we are going to do coding in any field of IT. So any subdomain of IT will have coding. That is what you have to keep in mind. This is applicable for networking as well, right? So that is one thing. And people are freaky about this, right? Mobile application development, right? So it is quite difficult when compared to developing a normal applications. So developing a normal applications, normal web apps or normal desktop based applications is quite easier. But if you want to develop mobile applications, again, you need to have good exposure on Android. And there are again some frameworks available like React Native or Flutter. So if you get a chance, you can go through what is React Native and what is Flutter. So Flutter is being given by Google and React Native is provided by Facebook, and you can go through it, which will help you to develop the good mobile applications with good standards, right? So these are all the options, guys. You have developer role, you have tester role, you have API developer role, you have a DB engineer role, you have mobile application developer role. So it is up to you, and you have to choose the right path. But if you are choosing one path, you have to be very strong enough on that particular domain or field. But as a fresher, you should touch all those things so that your profile will shoot for any requirement, right? So if you go as a fresher, they will not definitely look up for everything, right? So they will look up for a basic knowledge on everything. So that there is a difference, right? So they will not definitely look for everything, but definitely they look for basic knowledge or exposure on everything, right? So at least know what is what. But C++, Java, you have to be very strong. That is what I want to say. But other than that, whatever I have discussed, like APIs, mobile app developments, backend frameworks, at least know what is what. If someone is asking what is Node.js, you have to be in a position to say what it is. If someone is asking about what is a Flutter, at least you should have knowledge or exposure on to say a definition about what is a Flutter. So that level of basic exposure is mandatory to have. And people talk about IoTs, blockchains. Those are all domain specific. If you're really interested, you're supposed to put efforts on that as well, right? It's a complete different part. I'll discuss in the upcoming slides. Yeah. So the next comes in is cloud computing options. We have different options. People love cloud computing, right? So because it is having a lot of advantages, especially it is It is based on pay-as-you-go approach, and it reduces lot of cost to the organization. So that is why the organizations mostly use cloud computing setups, right? We have different cloud computing providers like Azure, AWS, Amazon Web Services, GCP, Google Cloud Platform, and we'll talk about Docker and containers. So that is quite different from these top three terminologies. We'll discuss that. Right? What is cloud computing? As a layman, if I want to explain what is a cloud computing in the sense, you're just going to get a virtual environment, or assume that I need a PC with the Linux version or Ubuntu version. So for 1 hour, I don't want that after that 1 hour, right? So that is my requirement. So for that 1 hour, I'll not go and buy a software. I'll not go and buy a hardware for that 1 hour, right? So instead, what I do, I just lease it. I just lease it from any cloud vendors like Azure, AWS, or GCP. Likewise, think about the organization. It requires so many hardwares for a short period of time. It's maybe for 6 hours, or maybe for 6 months also is short only, right? So for that 6 months or 6 hours, we are not going to buy the entire hardware, rather we will just get it for lease. So that is what the cloud computing providers do. They are not going to do only that. Just an example I'm giving. So likewise, they are going to offer so many services. So one among that is like, vendoring the things. So to establish the cost cutting, right? So if you are using cloud computing technologies, you have lot of options to reduce the cost. So that is why the organizations are interested in cloud computings, right? So we have different cloud computing providers like Azure, Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud Platforms. You can get an exposure in any one of those, like Azure or AWS or GCP. So there are a lot of features available, and even certifications is also available. You can take Microsoft Azure certification, AWS certification, or GCP certification, and you can excel that if you're interested in cloud computing. Coming to Dockers and containers, it is a part of DevOps. It is good to have Dockers and containers. So there is a difference between a container and a VM. So this is also running. If you are going for a DevOps side, again, Dockers and containers is emerging and running the world. Nowadays, it is a more popular comparative to other technologies right now. So you can search for Dockers and understand what it is, and you can search for the containers as well. So this is also an emerging technology in the IT. Right? So let's talk about what is must need. So there is something called must need, right? So I have discussed so many things like automation testers needs, or full stack developer need, front end developer need, back end developer need. I have discussed so many things, but there is something always called a must need, right? So which is essential for everyone, irrespective of whoever you are, right? You are either you may be a developer or a tester or an automation engineer or an API developer, whoever it is. There should be some basic understanding, or else I can say there should be some must need to have, right? So I'll just discuss about the 4 metrics that you need to have as a must need. The first thing is exposure to work on Linux distributions. 90% of the organization, I'll make it as 95 also, right? They are working on Linux only. They're not going to work on Windows. So, but if you're doing studies, or if you're working in a personal laptop, definitely you will not be using the Linux distributions, because they are all command based, right? We'll be working only on Windows, right? But coming to organizations, they are not going to work with Windows. Windows is just for logging in. After that, everything will go ahead and will be doing with the help of Linux OS only, because of its so many advantages and security features. We are not going to work on Windows. We are just going to work more and more on Linux. 95 to 90% is Linux based only, right? So having Linux knowledge is important. At least a basic Linux command if you should have and you should know, right? Like cat, ls, date. So these are all very basics. In addition to that, you should know how to write a shell script, how to kill a job that is running. So such kind of basic things in Linux you have to explore. Right, so that is the main pointer, exposure to work on Linux distributions. If you're not knowing how to work on Linux, it will be difficult for you once you enter in. Right, the next one is programming knowledge should extend to a framework level. Right, so we should not stop with just learning a program, rather we should know how to write a framework. Not necessarily to write a framework, you should know how to use the existing framework at least. Like, say for example, you know Java, you should not stop only with core Java. You should extend your knowledge to learn Java frameworks like Spring, Struts, Hibernate and all. Likewise, if you are a Python developer, if you want to be a Python developer, you should not stop with Python core alone. You should extend your knowledge to a framework level like Django or Flask. Right, so this is what you need to have. Full stack is what expected. This is what I am telling from the beginning. Simply having exposure on programming languages doesn't help. You should know how to use, when to use, and what to use, right? So that is the three things which you have to know. So you should know how to pick the right technology and how to use it and where to use it exactly, right? So that is where the organization is now looking for full stack developers. So it is good to have full stack, but just build a basic block, then start working on this full stack. Okay, so which means just work on the mandatory skill sets first, then you can go ahead and start working with your full stack knowledge. And good to have knowledge on any cloud platform. The platform may be any, Amazon Web Services or Azure. They are giving for free. If you take Azure, if you want to practice Azure, they are giving free credits for 1 month. If you go for Amazon Web Service or Google Cloud Platform, they are giving free service for 1 year. You can utilize it for your learning purpose. If you have a credit card, if you pay 1 rupee, then you can enjoy the service for the next 1 year with Amazon Web Service or with Google Cloud Platform. Just search and explore it. But with Microsoft Azure, they are going to give only for 1 month free subscription. Then again, you have to pay if it is expired, right? So just explore. They are available for free just for exposure and learning. So use that and try to know at least what is Azure, what is web service, and what is what, right? Then GitHub. So GitHub is again important. GitHub is like source control or version controlling tool, you can say. You will control the source codes and you will be branching it. So many things you can do with this GitHub. So if I want to talk about GitHub, it is a separate section. So just you should keep in mind that you should also know about GitHub, right? So finally the Dockers. Since they are emerging, it is good to have Docker knowledge also. So these are all the must-need, guys. In addition to the mandatory skill sets, these are all the must-need ones, right? So coming to domain-oriented skill sets. So so domain-oriented skill set means if you want to become a data scientist or if you want to become a natural language processor developer. So in such case, you should have that skill set also in addition to what you have as a basic. So whatever I have discussed so far is basic plus full stack. After full stack, what comes in is the domain-oriented skills, which is specific to your domain. Machine learning modules in Python if you want to become a machine learning developer, and AML for Java. Data science developer means you have to learn other Python modules which supports data science. And SAP, again, it's a big domain. I'm not from that domain, but yes, people I know were working on SAP. So this is also a good choice if you are interested with SAP. And DB admin. So DB admin is a separate part. You are not going to develop an application. Rather, you are going to work with databases, right? So if you want to do that, you have a career option with DB admin also. So these are all domain specific other than what I discussed before. So how to boost in your profile? So I have said so many things like what are all the options or roles available and how you can overcome, how you can boost your profile, everything I said. So now we'll discuss about how to boost in your profile and what are all the things that you have to keep in your profile in order to get a job, right? So mini projects. So I don't know how many of you are done with mini projects. It is good to have mini project, and it is a must matter to have mini project in your hand, because when you are going for interview, especially as a fresher, At that time, you might be in 7th semester, you will not be in 8th semester, right? In that case, what will happen is you have not done the main project so far. So if they want to ask about projects, they will not go and ask like, what's your future main project? So that is something like not a valid question, right? So definitely they'll ask for many projects, whatever you have done so far. So whatever you are learning is just a theory, right? So if they want to understand how you are putting your theoretical knowledge in a practical world or environment, definitely you should come up with some mini projects. I'm putting the context mini projects, not mini project, because you should do more than one mini project in your before your appearance to the interview, right? So this is something which you have to keep in mind. At least 2 or 3 mini projects is required. Just choose any technology that you like or that you wish to do. Just try to do any mini projects, but because it is highly important, your profile will be judged with the help of the mini project only, especially as a fresher. It happened to me, that is why I'm telling this in a very concrete word, right? So mini project exposure is highly important, and you should do. If you are unable to do as a single person, you can mingle as a team and you can do also, that's fine. But good to have mini project in your profile, must to have, I can say. And coming to certifications, people always talk about certifications, right? CCNA, ISTQB, SEO, AWS, GCP, a lot of certifications available. Just go for the standard ones. Just don't grab certifications that are not worthy. Some certifications don't even be considered as a certification, right? So just don't go for such certifications. Just go for standard certifications like CCNA, ISTQB, SEO, and all. Don't go for any non-standard certifications, right? So if you are putting your certificate in your resume, it must be received from a standard company or standard authorized board. Then only it will be considered as valued. If you are putting some dumb certifications from X and Y company which is not even known to the world, that never gonna help you all, right? So that is what you have to keep in mind when you talk about certifications. And so as of now, we discussed so many things about boosting your profile with respect to technical skill sets. So let's give a brief or an intro on what other else is important, right? Communication skill. Definitely it is an important and major role player in your career, right? So you should know how to communicate in the best possible way. And for that, you should boost your communication skill. Communication skill will not develop as such. You have to develop it. So if you have options to take seminars, you take seminars and get exposed to how to speak in front of a large bunch of audience. And don't bother about errors. Just you have to practice a lot, then one day it will come. So learn new words every day. That is highly important, right? So especially if someone is writing a big mail, you should know how to segregate it and how to understand it in a proper way. Because normally, if you go for a working environment, the mails will be very larger and lengthy. It will have a lot of words which you might think that it is very new for you, right? Because you might have not heard such kind of words before. Because they use very high profile words, I can say. So it is good to have a good communication skill. Learn new words every day. Talk fluently. Try to talk. Practice a lot, and take seminars which will boost up your skills to talk in front of big bunch of audience. So do all these things, and definitely communication skills plays a very major role. Even if you're quite weak in technical part, if you know how to speak in front of audience, or if you know how to answer it in a proper way, then definitely you get a chance to go in, because communication is what going to deliver the things what you are going to say to the opponent, right? So it is very important to have good communication skills. Even if you have technical skill set, you should know how to expose it, right? How to tell that knowledge that you know to the outer world. How will you communicate? Using that communication skill set only, right? So keep a good communication skill with you. don't hesitate to talk in front of your friends or anyone in English. Just practice. I'm not saying that you have to talk 24/7 in English, but you have to practice a little bit in English so that it will give you more confidence to you. Okay, so that is what highly important. So having good confidence will increase your communication skills. Other than anything, you don't bother about language, grammar, anything. You don't bother at all. Just talk what you know. That will strengthen your skill set, and in future it will become more feasible. At initial stages, you will think like you are doing some errors, it is grammatically wrong, these, that. Yes, definitely grammatical errors will come and go here and there. So when you stop there itself, you will not able to achieve the success, right? So if you want to achieve the success, you have to practice. Once you practice a lot, definitely you will get the the end goal, right? So that is what I want to say. So practice new terminologies, words, and just talk with your friends in English. Not every day, not 24/7. At least when you are going for a cafeteria or something, right? So just spend some time, or with your relatives or your friendly one. Just spend some amount of time so that your communication skill will improve. And lastly, but importantly, you should also have professional skill set, right? So when I talk about professional, it involves two terms: skill sets plus attire. What is a skill set? Whatever I discussed so far, communication skill and technical skills, everything will come under the word skill set. And then lastly, we have something called attire, right? So how we dress up, how we behave, that is said to be attire. So it is also good to have a proper attire and proper behavior. So that is also highly equally important to the professional skills, right? So professionalism comprises of these two building blocks alone. One is a skill set. When you talk about skill set, it involves all your technical skill set and whatever we have discussed, communication skill set, everything will come. Attire, if I talk about, attire is something like how you behave, how you react to the situations. Such things also will cover when it comes to attire. So it is good to have everything. Okay. So lastly, for your career options, especially as a fresher, you should have something called first round, right? So in any interview for freshers, they'll conduct something called aptitude exam, right? So you should know how to solve logical problems, verbal problems, and quantitative problems. That is what the first round is always, right? Any company, whatever the company you take, they will come up with the first round, which is aptitude round, right? So you should know how to solve logical, verbal, and quantitative problems. It has happened to me, guys. Like, you should give equal weightage to all these things, like logical, verbal, and quantitative, because they will not sum up the score and they will not see the end score. Say, for example, you have 25 questions in logical, 25 in verbal, and 25 in quantitative, right? For an example, right? So assume that I'm taking 25 out of 25 in logical and verbal, and I'm taking only 10 marks in quantitative, right? So in such case, I will not go for the second round, because they will not take the total sum, rather they will take the individual scores. In logical, they have set some standards, like the person should score more than 15. In verbal also more than 15. Quantitative also more than 15. That is how the score calculation will happen. Score will not be like summing up the things. Score will be like an individual component score. So what I'm trying to convey is very simple. You should give more importance to all these three parts. Don't give importance to only one or two. Even if you're getting 1 mark lesser in any one of the part, also the chances of getting into the next round will be gone. So keep that in mind. It has happened to me. That is why I'm telling this. The second one is good written and debugging skill. So this is also important. Coding skill is highly important, and also you should know how to debug. That is highly important, right? So if some code is giving error, you should know how to fix it. So that will help you for round 2. And good communication and behavioral skills, that will help for in round 3. And at last, being said all these, it is good to have high confidence and a piece of luck always, right? So high confidence in the sense, whatever you're talking, either it is a right or wrong, you should have confidence on what you're talking. So that is what highly recommended and important, because if you talk with confidence, the people who is sitting and hearing at the opposite end will get inspired with your words, and if there is error also, they will just not look into the error more. So that is what I'm trying to convey. So having higher degree of confidence will allow you to uh, glow more. That is what I'm trying to convey, right? So these are all the must need skills that you are supposed to have for a glowing career, not only with IT, in any part or any job that you're going to do. These are all the things that which will help you to glorify your profile and strengthen your profile, right? So that's it from my end. So I have discussed so many things, so we are reaching the end of time, so let's go for a Q&A. And if you have any queries, you can put that on chat box, else we can wind up the session, right?
Thank you, Hariprasad. Students, we have enabled the chat box in YouTube, so that you can post the queries there. I will just copy those queries, and I will let you know, Hariprasad, what are the queries asked.
Students, at the end of the session, we will be posting feedback link, the chat box, live chat box. Kindly fill the chat box and send it to us. Fill the link and send it.
Sorry, Prasad. So the query has been asked. I have posted in the chat box. Sorry, Prasad.
Yeah, I'm reading it out. What will you suggest, MySQL or SQL Server, or both is okay to know? See, MySQL or SQL Server. See, MySQL is kind of basic, right? So after learning the basic only, you can go ahead for the next stuff, right? So it is good to have both. MySQL is a basic, like a building block, right? Good to have both, definitely. But start with SQL and then move to the next piece and part. Functional and management roles. Functional roles and management roles. I'm not aware of, since I'm from completely from a technical background. So I'm not sure about the functional and management related roles. Yeah.
Sir, Hariprasad?
Yes.
Sir, we have a question as well. Is there any tips to crack the HR round?
Yeah.
Students,
So
students are
cracking the
asking.
HR, it involves like cracking the HR round is quite easy because you have been already set up some basic, view, right? Like you have already cracked first round, second round. Finally, only the HR round comes in the role, right? So already they have the history of you, right? So round one feedback will be there, round two feedback will be there, round three feedback will be there. So before you appear in front of HR, they have your history in place. So definitely that will be already set up. The only thing which you have to prove, the main concept behind these kind of rounds is like you have to prove your confidence and you have to prove your flexibility on your work, right? So that is what you have to prove. So already history is there. HR, if it is a general HR, they are not definitely going to ask for your. They are not definitely going to ask technical questions. They will definitely ask only non-technical questions. The reason behind those questions is to understand your flexibility on work, how smart you are to answer the things, and how good you are in your communication skills, and how best you can explain some scenarios. So such things is what they are looking for, right? So cracking HR is quite easy since the history is already ready with them. It is good to project yourself that you are almost perfect and you are interested to take the opportunities and convey them in such a way that you are a positive thinker and also you will solve any sort of problems without rushing up your stressing up yourself. So that is what help you to crack the HR interview. So it's quite very simple, guys. In HR, you don't bother about anything because history is already there. They know everything. They have a system and they have kept everything maintained and tracked from your round one score till your HR round score. Everything will be there. So it is not something like you're going to enter and prove everything in your HR round, right? So HR is for just understanding your confidence and understanding your knowledge on how you speak, how you communicate, how you react to different situations, and how you overcome some scenarios. So the only basic thing and building block is confidence. Be confident and talk. That will really help you to get cracked. Yeah. So the next question I see is, if I choose a full stack development as a choice, is it mandatory to do everything about the frameworks or medium languages enough? So as a fresher, if you start to work as a full stack developer or full stack web developer, you just start with some basics or a medium level, intermediate level of exposure is sufficient as a fresher because no one knows everything, right? So if you want to know everything, say for example, I'm saying myself as a Django full stack developer, I know to a particular extent only. I'll not know everything about Django, right? So similarly, it is not something like you need to know top to bottom, but it is good to have exposure on things. Intermediate knowledge is sufficient. When your knowledge will increases, when you go and work, then only your knowledge will get increased. Just learning is just learning. When it will be extended or increased is when you really go and work, then only you will get a exposure and then only your knowledge will grow, right? So as of now, as a fresher, I suggest you to go ahead with the intermediate level of learning with all full stack technology. Just choose one full stack technology and learn to a intermediate level. That is sufficient. You no need to go for a deep dive. That is not required. No one knows to be open because framework itself is a huge component. No one knows every bits and parcels of framework. That is not even possible also because if you know that, then you will become a framework developer, right? So go for an intermediate, then that will take you to the next level automatically. Yeah.
Students, if you have any other questions, you can post it in chat box. Balaji sir, there is no other questions. Shall we conclude?
Yeah, we will conclude, sir. We'll conclude. So thank you, Mr. HARIPRASATH, for your wonderful and informative session. I hope all the students would have benefited and got some inputs to choose their career. I thank you all once again for this auspicious motivational alumni talk. Thank you very much, and thank you all.
Thank you.
We can end up the session.
Thanks a lot for joining and being with me for the last 2 hours. Thanks a lot. Bye. All the best.
HARIPRASATH sir, there is last final question from our students.
Yeah.
If I choose the known language as Python,
Okay.
would I be allowed to use to build in functions in Python to solve problems?
During interview, right? So
No. It was asked in this way: if the student knows a language called Python,
okay.
will he or she be deployed in the same project to solve the real world problems? That is what he is asking.
To be frank, it is not the case because we have to scale up ourselves based on the requirement. That is how the situations are right now, right? So the chances are there, but we cannot assure the things. If we stick into Python, if we, as an experienced professional, it is possible. If I say that I have experience only in Python, I will not go ahead for Java, or I will not work on Ruby or Scala. I can say because I am experienced only on Python, I have an option to say. But as a fresher, when you are starting career itself, if you want only to become a Python interviewer, Python professional, it's not possible. I think there is one more question.
He's asking in terms of interview.
Yeah, coming to interview point again, it depends on the organization to restrict the programming language, right? So there are some organizations which supports only Java. So definitely you should write only programs on Java because their products might be running only on Java, right? And some companies will stick only on Python, especially the data science based companies will stick interview processes only with Python because they are then going to completely run with Python at the end of the day, right? So it depends on company to company, but max of the company like service based organizations go ahead with Java, or Java is the max for interview perspective as far as I know. Other than that, C++ is coming. Python, product-based companies are allowing to give interviews on Python. So if you are looking for a good product-based companies, Python is a choice. But I'm not sure as a fresher, is it that easy to get into that? Because product-based definitely take the experienced professionals. They'll give the priority to the experienced first than the freshers. So it depends on the company, end of the day, right?
Thank you, HARIPRASATH sir. It has been a wonderful day with you. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being with me for the last 2 hours. Thanks a lot. Bye.